My focus is civil and political rights in Cuba. I face daily violations, especially of freedom of reunion, freedom of association and political participation. We document these violations and we help communities, local communities inside Cuba, to address and advocate for the right of assembly and peaceful reunion, such as families of political prisoners, women, students, and farmers, that their only option is to be with the organizations of the Communist Party and are unable to have independent organization rights.
I think most of us are not defenders by choice, but because we need to be. It's very difficult to say what specifically, like to extract one single issue, because so many things are interlinked, so we are forced to fight on so many fronts. That's why I advocate for integral approach to human rights, so not just to separate them, which of course comes sometimes with the emphasis of certain group of rights. I would say in Serbia we all experience huge violation of labor rights. We also are put in great danger due to Rio Tinto mining in Serbia that is planned to happen. So our right to safe environment is severely jeopardized, and we all in different ways try to contribute to this struggle. So environmental rights for sure. And I would say that economical and social rights in general have been neglected for quite some time. But of course it also depends on the level of your privileges in a society. So for some extent, to be honest, I am privileged. But my colleagues who are, for example, Roma people, of course face racism. And if you're women, you of course face different obstacles in your access to your sexual and reproductive rights. So the list is quite extensive.
My daily life as a human rights defender is a bit unpredictable because we are handling issues to do with the environment in natural resource context, such as oil production, where we're confronting the corporate oil companies. And you know, in such situations, the oil production or the corporate entities have more influence over government. So they don't prioritize the corporate social responsibility aspect of their production. These are some of the key rights that you're speaking about, as well as environmental and climate justice for the vulnerable people in natural resource exploitation areas.
Well, my daily life as human rights defender is a pathway full of struggles, obstacles, but also full of joy when I think that what I'm doing can make a difference and can help to change other people's and mine and my life. That's a very good incentive to keep doing what I do every day.
Well, Venice School is part of my Sakharov Fellowship. So my interest was multi-level. Firstly, I want to expand my knowledge on human rights, particularly in terms of what legal mechanisms are available for us in international domain, given that our institutions in Serbia are heavily controlled and co-opted and do not serve to meet the people's rights. Another layer is, of course, to meet new people, expand my network of contacts, get also inspiration from other struggles and other people, and of course to put myself in different contexts and challenge myself to start thinking from different angles.
One of the first reasons why I applied to the Venice School of Human Rights is one, to understand some of the international component of human rights, to also get to network with colleagues across the world who are working in different human rights questions of the world, as well as to learn from their experiences and what we can do together as human rights defenders.
It is important as an activist to understand the mechanisms of the international community organizations on human rights, especially the UN, the European Parliament, for us to navigate, to understand what are the resources we have available to raise our voice and raise the issues we are concerned. It is important not to get lost in the maze of the international community.
Well, I've been a human rights defender in the American system for almost 8 years, and I think it is good for my cause to learn how to achieve another spaces, another platforms where I can fight for my rights, but also to meet people who makes the same that I do. And to me, one of the best experiences as human rights defender is always to learn from others.
I would say it was the atmosphere and energy and the way how the space is being held, in a sense that there is no need to self-censor yourself. Instead, you can really discuss with professors, with other students. Compared to some other spaces, you really can be free to explore topics and bring your whole self here, and maybe even put to the table some angles that are not necessarily welcome in some different spaces. So I think ability to be self-critical and have honest and deep and nuanced discussion is something that I really appreciate.
It has been a very thorough course that has touched every one of the rights that we defend: human rights, climate change, inequality, minority rights, indigenous rights. So it has been a very broader in terms of the thematic and the themes, and also very thorough in terms of how specific and technically information we have received. It has been also amazing to share the course with other human rights defenders from all over the world, every corner of the world, and sharing similar experiences and realizing that today authoritarianism threat it is a global one.
Participants, I feel that my family has grown a lot. I feel people who I can identify every day, that we are fighting together to make a change. Doesn't matter the obstacles in the culture, the language, we are all here because we want a better world.
Oh my God, it's very amazing program because I've gotten to learn a lot of things that I cannot explain one by one. I cannot say one was the best, but all of them were the best. Everything I've learned here is just quite amazing, and it's just like life-changing. I feel I have the energy. I feel I have the boost now to move forward with my work as a right defender.
Human rights are beyond any ideology. We should understand that human rights are political, but not ideological. Genocide is a genocide everywhere. A lack of freedom is a lack of freedom everywhere. In the case of Cuba, my country, the myth of the revolution has served as an excuse for many to neglect the violations of human rights happening in my country. My call is for the international organization to understand them, to go beyond the myth and to go beyond any ideological bias, to think about human rights violations and as that, and not to be confused by ideological narrative, either left or right.
So in Serbia, activists have been fighting on so many fronts, and many of them find themselves in their older age without their needs being met. In a sense, they do not have safety nets, they do not have access to social benefits, and they do not have proper access to healthcare system. So some of us have been exploring different ways how we can build network of mutual solidarity, basically, so that people who have been opening ways for us, newer generation, do not feel left behind once they cannot be part of the movements anymore. So we would like to have this solidarity fund. So if you can support us in advisory capacity, give us some ideas, connect us with somebody who has already been doing something similar around the world, or can contribute with seed funding for activists, so we can respond to their healthcare or any emergency needs, that would be mostly welcome. And in the longer run, I'm hoping to see funders supporting properly labor rights and all corresponding benefits to activists in the moment, so that people in the future do not find themselves in such position. And I particularly need to stress that especially Roma activists and elderly workers who have been part of labor movement and others from smaller cities and villages are without proper access to healthcare, and we really need to support them.
As a human rights defender, first of all, many of us are forced to always go into exile, but we cannot create more impact when we are outside than when we are inside the country. We also need support in form of finances, because our work is all about not only speaking alone, but educating the people, empowering victims to speak up. We need entities that we can talk to anytime. We need exposure, we need networking, especially in the area of funding. Funding to human rights activities is the least in my country, because we are living in emergencies where much of the funding goes to emergency situation, displacement, refugees, all so forth. But human rights is one of the most important components. You cannot have development and people enjoy it if they do not have rights. At the same time, people cannot speak up for their rights if they do not know their rights. So it is one thing to be a human rights defender, it's another one to see how many people are we impacting on every day, how many disciples are we training to speak up for their rights. When we deal with the issues to do with natural resource, for example, we have been educating the people to understand our laws are very good. Our laws in protection of a human right in the context of natural resource exploitation are very good, but they're not implemented. At the same time, the local people do not know that they have rights. So it's our responsibility to tell them, this law says you have this right and you are entitled to it. So we need support in the area of funding. We need support when we are under repression. We need support when we are looking to exiting the country if the danger is so high for us to live in.
The Nicaraguan cause for freedom, justice, and human rights is not just for Nicaraguan. It's just for all those who deserve to live in peace, freedom, and have a best future. Every time we ignore the cause for Nicaragua, we are giving the back of human rights cause.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.